We're delighted that you're thinking about submitting an article to the International Political Science Review. IPSR is the journal of the International Political Science Association, and we publish 5 issues a year. We're very pleased that you're interested in our journal and have some advice which may be helpful. First, ours is a generalist journal, which means that articles should be of interest to readers across more than one subfield of political science. This means that if your article is on a very specialised topic that would primarily be of interest to colleagues working on that topic, you would be better advised to submit the article to a journal whose primary focus is that specific area. This is not a reflection on the merits or quality of your article, only that every journal has a target audience in mind, and ours is an audience spanning the subfields within political science. A stylistic point in this regard. It is very important to engage with readers in the opening sentences and make clear why the topic is interesting and important. You have something valuable to add to knowledge and debates in political science, and you need to engage your readers with your ideas from the very beginning. One thing to avoid is a lot of references in the opening sentences. These won't mean anything to readers outside your subfield and may get in the way of engaging readers with the topic. Second, it is essential to identify a significant puzzle or research question which will be addressed in the article. You need to set this out at the very beginning, together with an indication of the scholarly literature with which your article engages. Please indicate why this is an important question that is worth trying to answer, or in other words, how and why your article fills a gap in existing literature that needs to be filled if a better understanding of some aspect of politics is to be achieved. Third, you must identify the most important literature relevant to your research. This doesn't mean too many references. In fact, to avoid clutter, our journal has a limit of 45 references for articles. Often you can refer to a good overview of the relevant literature that will save you having to reference many individual works. If you do mention an author in the text, you should describe why their views are significant. For example, Ronald Engelhardt, known for his influential theory of a generational shift from materialist to post-materialist values, argues that, and proceed from there. Be sure to check whether the journal has published previous work on your topic, and if so, do refer to it. We like to see our journal contributing to cumulative knowledge building. Fourth, tell the reader quite early in your article the research design through which you will try to solve the research puzzle that you have identified. You will usually need a subsequent section that sets out the approach and methodology in greater detail. However, this does not mean overloading your article with technical detail about your methodology or results. This is better placed in online supplementary material that can accompany your article. It will then be available to those who want to or would like to replicate your study, while at the same time enabling the article itself to be accessible to those mainly interested in the substantive issues with which the article deals. Incidentally, if the focus of your work is primarily methodological, it would be better submitting it to a specialist journal. Fifth, at the end of your introduction, after you have introduced the research puzzle and the research design through which you will address your puzzle, provide the reader with a thumbnail overview of what the structure of the article will be. 6. As well as being a generalist journal covering many subfields of political science, we are also an international journal. Hence, we seek to publish articles that deal with international institutions or comparative topics. We do not exclude single case studies or single country case studies, but such studies need to highlight the comparative and theoretical implications of the case. Thus, if you are using a single country case study, make sure you address some international and/or comparative questions. Furthermore, does your study, particularly if it is of your own country, adequately explain the nature of its political institutions, political parties, context, for the benefit of someone who is not familiar with your country? How do you make your analysis interesting and relevant to an international audience that may not know anything about your country? Remember that if you introduce the names of people in your text, you need to introduce them, say who they are, and why they are relevant. This also applies to authorities you mention in your literature review as well as political actors. Do show how your findings relate to comparable studies of other countries. Does your study bring into question received wisdom or widely accepted propositions within political science? Or in contrast, does your study confirm existing propositions, although on the basis of the case where they might not have been expected to apply? 7. The word limit for IPSR articles includes all elements, including those that will be added if the article is accepted for publication, like author biographies, funding statements, and any acknowledgements. Material that will be posted online is not included in the word limit, so you should aim to come under the deadline in your first draft. You also need to allow for the additional words that will be added when you respond to reviewer comments and suggestions. Be very careful that all the material in the article is strictly needed for answering the research question. This may include relevant context, but not other material that may be interesting in its own right, but not strictly relevant. 8th, your article should conclude by reiterating your findings and their implications. Don't finish your article by introducing new concepts or referring to the work of others. This is the place to provide the reader with a strong takeaway message from your research. However, doing so does not preclude your suggesting possible lines of future research that may arise from questions generated by your study that you were not able to address. 9th, really important, think about the title of your article. You want to ensure that the article is read widely, so it is important that your title is precise, concise, and includes relevant keywords associated with your specific topic. You should also think about the keywords that you use describing your article. Most articles are now accessed through powerful internet search engines. It is important that scholars interested in your research topic will be pointed to your work. Including relevant keywords is an essential part of this process. Your abstract should clearly outline the research puzzle that is being addressed, the research design, and the key findings and implications of the research. This is not the place to be coy about your work. The abstract must inform and impress readers. It is the first part of your article that they will read, and many will decide whether or not to proceed with the article on the basis of what's in the abstract. Last, all journals have a set of guidelines for contributors on our website, as do we. There you will find detailed information on our referencing system, format requirements for figures and tables, and other style issues. Preparing your manuscript using these guidelines will make the publication path for your article run smoothly. We wish you every success in the writing process and look forward to receiving the finished product.